Welcome to the very first official Nerd Central podcast. My name is Stazz, and today we're going to be talking about, or I figured it would be Destiny, to talk about Destiny. And I do have a special guest with me here today, one of the co-founders of Nerd Central, uh, Mr. Mike. How you doing, Mike?
Uh, I'm pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing pretty good. I can't wait to start getting into the nitty gritty about Destiny. Uh, so I figured that I'd break it down into pros, cons, and then maybe like closing thoughts, and then if you want to like recommend pass or maybe wait for it to go on sale, kind of a thing, like three categories, and then we can talk about the raid and then the kind of like the prevailing theory on what Destiny is. So, does that sound good?
Yeah, well, let's just tackle that.
Cool, cool. You want to go first, or you want me to go first?
I'll start with a couple pros. That's fine.
Okay.
Um, for me, I've been playing. I've probably played about 40 hours plus in the last week and a half, and I gotta say the game runs completely like smoothly. I have not had any really issues with anything except for my internet provider, but that's about it.
That's usually most people's problems, right? Their internet
Yeah,
providers.
it wasn't a Destiny server, so that's good. Um, the game's easy to jump into. Like if you've ever played Halo, it just
hmm
like becomes like riding a bike. You just jump on and go.
hmm
So it's very nice like that. What do you think?
Well, I completely agree that for a game like that, it's putting two genres, a shooter in with an MMO. This is the first style of game I play. Like there's a couple other ones that are out that are similar, or they try to play a similar feature. But yeah, no, I was very surprised on launch day. I know some people did have problems. Some of the servers did crash, but it's been fairly smooth. I haven't had any issues. Um, I haven't had any problems with my internet going out. So, um, and then, uh, crud, I totally lost train of thought. There's an explosion outside my house.
Oh,
Um,
jeez.
yeah. Let me jump into one of my pros as well. Is that surprisingly, it's very rewarding, the gameplay. I don't know if you played Borderlands or Borderlands 2.
Very little,
Okay,
but I didn't get extremely into it. But I played maybe probably about 20 hours into it.
okay, well, I mean, that's a fairly good chunk, but what I liked about Borderlands 2 was the gameplay and then the ability to customize your character and go into certain trees and skills. While you do get that to some extent in Bungie, or not Bungie, Destiny, with your character. It's not overwhelming, and you can kind of finagle your character a little bit to make him unique and stuff like that. And then there's also the loot, which is MMO style loot where you kill an enemy and an item could drop for you, and you can either it'll be good, bad, or whatever. I think those are extremely well mixed together. It's not overwhelming for super customization, or it's not overwhelming with the loot. You're not thrown just bunches of loot, not knowing what to use, and you just you don't feel that need of, oh, I need to use everything. It's more like, oh, I have a cool weapon, I'm going to use that now, and then hopefully maybe get some other gear and stuff like that. So what about you with loot? I know you had some mishaps with loot with your character, but
Yeah, it's very annoying. I like it. It's awesome. It's very rewarding when you get something. You're like, oh, is this going to be a legendary? Is this going to be a legendary when you're going to decrypt it? And then all of a sudden you get a green. You're like, ah, crap, this stinks. And then the other day, I'm going. I get a legendary for. I play as a Titan. First off,
Yeah, yeah, and that's
yeah,
and I play as a warlock, so we have two classes, two separate classes that we can talk about. But go ahead.
yeah. So as a Titan, I'm like, okay, oh, I got a legendary, and I go and then I look in the inventory. Up, it's for warlocks. I'm like, I know I'll be able to use it later because you could share your loot and everything, which is awesome.
hmm
But I want to use it now, so I can't use it. And then just probably last night, I got a exotic helmet, but it ended up being for a hunter. So I haven't had any really crazy good loot, but it definitely is rewarding when you get that one rare item or something. It's awesome. It
hmm
keeps you. playing and playing.
I completely agree. That's one thing that I do find that they didn't um, restrict or have stricter loot tables for is getting that other gear for a hunter or a titan, other than the class that you are. Because similar games to what Activision uh, holds is, Diablo, which now has a smart loot system where you have a very very small chance of getting a piece of gear for like the class that you're not playing. So I figured and I hope that they either address that or they make it more freely flowing to where hey, the game recognizes you having three characters, it'll maybe drop maybe a piece or two for those other characters. It'd be kind of cool if they
Yeah,
did
it
that way.
would definitely make leveling the other characters a lot more fun and entertaining. Like, oh,
Hmm.
sweet, I got this nice helmet, so I should play my as my hunter, and then
Hmm.
it'll be really good, you know.
I agree. I completely agree. So, I think, well, trying to think what else is good about the game. I will say that for a next gen game that is brought with all the other consoles with PS4, 360, PS3, it looks really good. Usually you can tell when a game is ported to all systems, but this looks phenomenal for a port.
I definitely do have to agree with you. I mean, I'm more of a computer person, you know. I play with a heavy graphics card and everything, and
Hmm.
the Xbox does do it some justice, I have to say.
Hmm.
I I'm really pleased with the visual. Even my grandma walked in one time as I was playing. She's like, "Oh my gosh, it's amazing! The colors, everything," and
Mm,
she couldn't even believe it was a game.
yep, yep. I've seen some really cool shots with just like the moon and the or like especially on the moon where there's some
Well,
really cool shots of like the nebulas and like the how the terrain looks. It looks really cool.
or even the darkness, the garden, the black garden.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
That is really cool.
Yes, that is really. So okay, I think we touched on I think a lot of the pros of the game, graphics, gameplay, so another thing too is the social aspect. While this is an MMO, I do find it that it's fairly easy to jump into those strikes, which are dungeons, if you want an MMO term, or the PvP or the player versus player content, like playing Halo multiplayer, where you go against other players. Fairly, very easy to just pick a set list, hit start, play it. If you're bored, you can just leave it, or you can change it up a little bit. Very easy to do so.
It definitely is.
Hmm. Now, I want to talk about some negativity about this game. Now, um, I haven't read any of the official reviews on this game, and of course, we're not anything but we're not official stuff. So we're just two Joes playing a game. Um, I do agree that the word on a lot of the official reviewers like IGN and GameSpot is that it's kind of not spectacular. It's like it feels like average with some cool aspects or cool functionality, and I can see where they're talking about is the story. The story seems very generic, very
Yes, it
you.
does.
I mean, you are a character that it is a special kind of guardian that this one ghost particularly finds, and then you are the only one who can, quote unquote, stop the darkness. Super, super, vague and like just not enough info. Like you have, and you don't see the darkness, and it's lore that doesn't really get explained to you that often, or if that.
Yeah, there really isn't too much of them explaining it, but I figure over time they might add some more, like in the expansions that go probably back and explain a little bit more
Hmm.
about the Traveler and the Guardians and the whole bit.
Hmm.
But as for right now, I think they just wanted to get it out the window and just get you playing like you can get you kind of hooked first, and then add it because it is an easy game to just jump into. I think that's what they were going for.
I gotcha, yeah. And if you think of it that way, okay, it doesn't. All right, I can think of it as, oh hey, we're gonna continue the story with our expansions or our DLC, and you will feel more rewarded. But for a game that most people, I assume most people assume that it's just a shooter with multiplayer functionality, are going to be really like upset or maybe not as into it as they thought they were going to be. Because there are definitely certain aspects of this game that I felt like, why am I going here? Why am I going to scan this rock?
Just go and scan all over the place.
Exactly. Like I did not understand some of the aspects. Now, up until like the last like 3/4 or the last quarter of the game, I'm like, oh, cool. Now we're getting into it. We're finding out more things about the darkness. Blah 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 blah. At that point, I was like, okay, I'm into it. But the lack of story seems fairly surprising, and I can understand some of the um, reluctance that people might have.
Oh yeah, because right off the beginning, you're standing there, and all of a sudden the ghost comes by, and he's like, I've been looking for you, Guardian," and then you just go right into it. There's
Hmm.
not really anything. You're like, what's this ghost thing? Who
Hmm.
am I? And they don't really even get into that at all,
Hmm.
and how you got there in the first place,
Yep.
kind of a thing.
I I completely agree. So another thing, another negativity is, oh wow, I just blinked out again.
Well, I'll tell you something
Yeah, go for it.
with adding on to like this story.
Hmm.
For solo play, it kind of is a
Mm.
little hard to play to continue. I mean, you can get through the story by yourself, fine, that's all right, that's okay. But when you once you're past the story, it's really hard to play without friends, kind of a thing. That's one of my
Mm.
negative things on it. Because playing with friends, it really makes the game, but because then you could do the harder levels a lot easier and different things like that. You're playing by yourself, it does. It gets repetitive and repetitive and repetitive, and you're just like, yeah, like you said, go scan this, go scan that, kill 10 of these guys, go
Hmm.
stop this one guy, and it gets very repetitive in that regard.
Yes, yes, and I completely agree. Completely agree. Um, another negativity that it's not really more a negativity aspect. It's more of a nitpick, but it could be a negative for some people. Peter Dinklage, the voice of our Ghost, doesn't have anything other than a monotone like, "Oh, Guardian, go over there. There's the Vex," or "Oh, I found you." Now, you and me, we're huge Game of Thrones fans. I would kiss Peter Dinklage's feet if he presented them. Like, I would do that. But it seemed like that it was rushed dialogue. Like he spent like maybe an afternoon in a recording studio and just said these lines, and then Bungie was like, "All right, cool, see ya."
Yeah, we got
Like,
it. We're good.
yeah, exactly. There's more emotional dialogue off your guardian, a person that says maybe what a handful of 5 lines in the whole game,
Yeah, I
than
don't even
Peter.
remember mine talking practically.
Well, and yeah, I mean, like, and that's another negativity. The Guardians, or at least your character, doesn't say much. Now, I understand that that's because they want to keep it as an MMO feel, like you're part of a clan and you're technically the same person, or the same special Guardian. But I mean, come on, like, I want some sort of, I don't know, like personality that my character could give, or like some MMOs will give you a like this is what your character sounds, or this is what your character, or this is your character mannerisms, kind of a thing. Almost like Knights of the Old Republic, the MMO.
Yeah, or even Mass Effect
Yeah, or
in
even
that
something like
regard.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So I think that pretty much covers all my negative aspects. Do you have anything else to add, or
Not
maybe
really.
not?
It was
Okay.
just a repetitiveness, but I think that'll slowly go away as, they come out with more content, like they released the raid this week. Yeah, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people can't do it, but they released the raid, and I know today or this weekend, I think they're releasing a couple more events. I think there's like 3 new events that they're releasing today,
Mm-hmm.
and so on. So I think as it goes on, there might be more and more, and it'll probably get better. But
Mm-hmm.
as of right now, the repetitive is the biggest negative to me.
Yes, I completely agree. Completely agree again. So, I think that we should then conclude our little review on this by giving three simple categories. I don't like doing 1 through 10 or 1 through 5 or thumbs up, thumbs down. It's either recommend for a purchase, recommend to for purchase when it's on sale, or a pass, wait for something else. I'll go first. I totally
Okay.
recommend this as a purchase. This game is totally worth it in my eyes. It is a game that will grow within the months in the coming weeks. Like you mentioned before, they just released the first raid. They have special events that usually happen over the weekend. Plus, I only played one character, a warlock, and I have two other characters that I can level up and play with them, and that'll introduce fresh gameplay and things of that nature. I totally recommend this to anybody, and I recommend this to anybody who played Halo or the Borderlands series. Very similar aspects, at least with Halo, because it feels like you're playing a Halo game with the shooting mechanics and the enemies. Um, and the loot system is very Borderlands light. It's not as extensive. You're not going to get thousands of gun combinations, but there are certain things that you can pick up that feels like Borderlands. And if you enjoy that kind of style of gameplay, you'll definitely enjoy Destiny. So, what about you, Mike?
I would totally recommend it as a purchase because I bought an Xbox One just for this game, and
Nice.
I'm so proud that I actually did.
Good.
I mean, like I said, it's repetitive, but it's totally worth it. It's extremely, extremely addicting, especially
Hmm.
with the loot system.
Hmm.
You just keep on, you don't want to put it down, you just, and the app too, they have a side app, and like you keep track of like all the different events and things through that side app. It's kind of cool,
Hmm.
in my opinion, but yeah, I would totally recommend it for anyone. Like you said, Borderlands people, definitely. One of the games I put a lot of time in was Elder Scrolls Oblivion, and I feel there's a lot of similarities between this one and that one too, somewhat.
Mm.
And I think that's why I love putting the hours into it because it's kind of similar. Because that one you just ran around with your swords and blasting with all these crazy custom spells and stuff. This one you're just running around just shooting things off with hand cannons and
Hmm.
your super abilities like my Titan, the arc thing.
Yep.
And it's fun. It's fun, especially with friends. Totally recommend for anyone that likes playing with friends.
Good. I couldn't agree more. And I totally forgot that you were one of the purchasers of the system that you got an Xbox One. And by the way, me and Mike were playing on the Xbox One, and you bought it and you're enjoying it. And that's good. That's something that you always are afraid of. That like, well, I would really like that game enough to buy a system for or anything like that. But it's glad to hear that you really are enjoying it.
Yeah, exactly. Especially because I'm pretty much more of a PC gamer now.
Hmm.
So I was like, oh, I'm just gonna skip these consoles altogether. But I had to for this game, and I'm not anywhere like dissatisfied with spending like
Hmm.
$400 on my setup here for this.
Cool. Good.
I would do it again.
There you go. Cool. So that will conclude the review portion of Destiny. Um, now, with our podcasts, it will be usually a review orientated podcast, and then introduced or interjected with either comic book news, movie news, things that are going on in the genre of Nerd Central, comic movies, cosplay. I figured it would be a good segue to talk about the story of Destiny. Now, I will also put in the description of the video that this will be a spoiler review. Well, granted, there's not that much to spoil, but we will talk about the ending and talk about certain things that if you don't want to know about, you can either skip this part or just conclude the video and move along. So, the thing that got me interested about the lore of this game is the quote unquote darkness. Now, I don't know about you, Mike, but I actually think you did see this as well. That there's a theory going around the interwebs that Destiny actually sets you in the role of the evil, the darkness is force, and the Traveler is actually um, the darkness or a agent of the darkness building armies for the darkness. And the reason why this theory holds some water is that on a Reddit post, unfortunately I don't know exactly where it was, but I saw it on Kotaku, that one of the Fallen, which is an enemy in Destiny, some Guardian sneaked up on him, and the Fallen enemy screamed and said, "Oh, the darkness is here." That is a very interesting theory, and it introduces almost kind of like twisted perspective, and especially if Bungie intends this, this could get a really cool story, especially if you're the special guardian. What makes you so special? So, what are your thoughts about that, Mike?
Yeah, it totally can be that. I mean, the other some of the enemies you verse, you verse like an acolyte and a wizard. Wizards are usually good, but you're killing wizards. I don't know.
Oh,
I mean,
okay, yeah, just like simple just name recognition, like wizards and acolytes, and another thing too is their affinity or the enemy's affinity to resist light. And if they're supposed to be the darkness, wouldn't that be the other way around? That they would be susceptible to light.
yeah,
You
that's
know.
true. I didn't think about that one.
Hmm.
What else with it was with it? The other thing is, when you go into the garden or
Hmm.
the darkness, it was Vex, and the Vex and the Fallen are always fighting each other. Did he say he snuck up to a Fallen enemy, or was it um,
Um,
a
to
Vex?
to my knowledge, if I'm remembering this correctly, we or not we, the player snuck up under a fallen enemy,
Under a
and
Fallen.
yeah, and again, don't quote me on this, but I believe it was on the moon.
Okay. Yeah, no, I was just playing a little devil's advocate with it too,
Hmm.
because if it is the Fallen, if you look at like on Venus and certain things, there's like you'll see little battles going on where the Fallen are actually fighting the Vex.
Hmm.
So maybe the Vex are the pure like darkness, and yet the Fallen are just like another race like the humans. I mean, I
Um,
that could be a possibility.
yeah, and they do introduce the theory, or at least through the story in Destiny, that the Vex are an extremely old civilization or an old race of machines that might have something to do with the darkness, or at least the origins of the darkness. And part of that, I believe, is answered, or some of that could be answered in the Vault of Glass raid, which we'll talk about in a minute as well.
Yeah.
Now, how do you feel? Because we know that there's at least two planned DLCs that are supposed to come out before the end of this year. How do you feel about the story continuing in DLCs?
Oh, I'd be happy for it because like it's kind of a little dry right now. So yeah, if
Hmm.
DLCs, I feel they have that time to redeem themselves to make this even better than what it already is.
Mm,
So yeah, I'm excited. I hope they do as much as they can with the story and add a whole bunch more
okay.
kind of a thing.
I do agree as well that if they continue to add story to the DLCs and the expansions, I would love that so much more. And the thing too is, I hope they don't do it like, oh, here's a story pack DLC, and then here is a like player PvP DLC kind of a thing. I think that how Bungie has Destiny set up is that it would make more sense to have episodic content, like every couple of months introduce a couple more missions or a couple more raids through DLC stuff. Because we know that one of them is going to introduce something to do with the Hive. I think that's the first planned one. Is something that has to do with the Hive and the Moon. And then the second one is supposed to be with the Fallen as well. So I hope that they just keep introducing things like that, and not just have one chunk nothing for a while, and then have another chunk nothing for a while. I would like to see continued expansion on the story.
Yeah, I think I read on some article somewhere that they were talking about some of the worlds they have already. I mean, right now you have Earth, you have the Moon, Venus, and Mars,
Hmm.
and then you have I can't. Was it the Reed? I think it was for the whatever they're called. I can't remember their name right now.
Oh, the Awoken.
Awoken. There you go.
Yes.
Thank you. So I know, like in the multiplayer, they do have I think one Mercury map, if I'm not mistaken. I haven't played too much multiplayer yet.
Yes,
But
there is one Mercury map, which is actually pretty cool. But
so yeah, I'm expecting them, probably add a couple more worlds eventually with these, and then add some more story with that.
hmm
And I would enjoy that very much. So
cool, cool. So yeah, so that basically ends that discussion. Now I know you wanted to talk about the raid that recently came out this week.
yeah, I was very excited to see that, even though I can't do it yet.
Yeah.
Not quite high enough. I don't have enough gear for it,
hmm
or we don't have the amount of people for it yet. But we'll get
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Um, it's called like the Vault of Glass.
hmm
It came out, what was it, Tuesday?
Yeah. Tuesday.
That was it was beaten in like someone said like 10 and a half hours the first time.
hmm
I thought it took originally I thought it took them like 10 and a half hours after release for someone to finally beat it kind of thing. But
Oh,
no,
I gotcha.
to my understanding, the raid took 10 hours and a half of going through to beat them. Like these guys almost probably on average killed about 900 a piece like to get through this. And the one guy here, I see he died like 281 times. That's a lot of revivals.
hmm
So they definitely will come with some challenges, which I'm looking forward to.
Yes. I see now. Unlike um, most, I think players of Destiny, I used to play an MMO. I used to play World of Warcraft, and I understood some of the dynamic of raids. Raids are usually big, grand dungeons that you usually have to do multiple attempts at in order to beat it. Hearing that it took 10 and a half hours for the Vault of Glass to be beaten, to me, that feels kind of short. Now, again, coming from this World of Warcraft background in MMOs, it'll a typical raid night or a typical raid nights for guilds is anywhere between 2 to 3 days, which consists of 3 to 4 hours of raiding, or a dedicated raiding to that time slot. So hearing that it took about 10 hours, 10.5 hours, granted, that's at least two or at least three and a half days worth of raiding. To me, that felt short. I don't know why, but that's just how my gut feeling is with it. I do find it interesting that the players themselves had fairly and you pointed this out, had fairly small kill death ratios compared to the kills that they had. Because one person had what, over 1,000 kills, but yet his KD was in like the fives, like 5%.
Oh, yeah, there was one guy. He had 1,447 kills, and his kill to death was 5.61.
Yeah, that is that's insane. So for every 5 kills, he at least, or for every one death, he had 5 kills, and he died at least what, 50
Uh,
times,
no,
if
he
I'm doing
died
the math.
281.
Oh,
Or no, no, not him. Yeah, we have to do some math here.
at least 200 sometimes, or 100 and sometimes, if I'm doing my math right, because let's just do it an even thousand and
Yeah,
divide that
even
by,
that. Yeah.
yeah, that's at least 200 times, or yeah, about 200 times, yeah. So, but yeah, no, I hope that the raids become long like this and still pertain to issues with the game, that like, oh well, this one was the Vex, next one's going to be about the Cabal, or the final one's going to be about the Hive. So yeah, any
Uh,
any any closing thoughts on Destiny or anything like that?
um, Not really too much. I mean, like I said, I'm looking forward to the future of what it has to hold. I mean,
hmm
it's got me grasped right now. I just can't stop playing. But as for the future, I hope they just keep on pushing with more and more content, to keep me hooked because
Hmm.
I don't know if it stays like the same and stays stagnant, how much longer I can probably
Hmm.
keep this
Hmm.
like hold on me, kind of a thing.
Hmm.
But other than
I
that,
no, no,
I
I completely
yeah,
agree. I completely agree with what you were saying there. As long as there, I can play with you and our other friends online. I think this will keep me hooked at least for a while, and the added extra content that they will add to it or bring to the game is just going to be sweet nuggets of awesomeness, and things like that. So again, this was our Destiny review and our little theory crafting behind it. And this was our first official podcast for Nerd Central. You can find us on the various social media networks: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook at Nerd Central Cosplay. My name is Stazz, and I had Mike with me talking about Destiny, and hopefully we will be back shortly. Okay,
have a good
peace.
night, guys. Peace.